between the various departments, and those are the two departments that we are going to act on tonight. And are you going to be,
Yes, yes, correct, sir.
so everybody knows it's taping and recording. So if you have a question, but not an argumentative type question, I'll recognize you. Or whatever you want to question on the procedures that we follow. But this is basically a working meeting between the finance committee and the department heads. And we'd like to keep it as smooth as possible so we can get done. We're running behind schedule. So Chief, we have a request from your department. We didn't act on it Tuesday night for the simple reason that you weren't here to explain the reasons that your department item is being depleted. That's all.
You're referring to the
We require all department heads to at least show up and explain.
and you're referring to the reserve account transfer request, Mr. Chairman? Is that
Yeah.
correct? Okay. Yes. The request I had put in for was a $2,500 RAT request for the ALS line item. The ALS line item is basically a revolving account similar to snow and ice or something like that. It's not something that can be predicted. It all depends on the amount of ambulance calls that we do and the severity of the calls that we do. So the budget's not being overspent in the sense that there's anything going on there in terms of moving it around to other line items or anything like that. It's strictly based on our obligation to pay other mutual aid communities to come in for certain calls. And we're mandated on the ambulance to call them for certain reasons, severe calls, chest pain, stuff like that. Our department, our ambulance handles roughly 85% of the calls with no issues at all. It's the other 15% that are severe enough that we need to get that person additional help to make sure that they provided with the best possible care pre-hospital. Basically what happens is we're a little bit behind. The last couple of years I've been able to get to May without having to ask for a RAT before. And able to get to May and transfer some line item with some monies to that line item without a problem. However, this year we've been hit a little bit hard. We're up in the amount of calls we've been doing. We've done more calls in 2014 than we did in 2013. I expect to do more calls in 2015 than we're doing in 2014. So our ambulance calls are increasing. We're also providing a lot of mutual aid to West Brookfield at this particular time. So the reality is that we're a little bit behind where we were before. We've had more requests for ALS. So currently on paper, the department has about $2,700 left in that account on paper. However, our outstanding bills for that total a lot more than that, which will leave me, after those have all come in and been processed and paid, it will leave me with $350 in that account. So basically the account is, at this point, with those outstanding bills, for the most part, completely depleted. That $350 accounts for maybe 2 more calls, and that's about it. So I have a request that I can adjust. I understand where the position of the board is, or the committee is on reserve account transfers. I understand they're trying to keep that to a minimum, and I certainly sympathize with that. However, whether or not the committee would be willing to give the entire $2,500, which I feel would be enough to get us through May, or if they'd like to do something less than that, I understand. However, I simply just state that $350 will not last. It'll probably go less than a week. It could go by tonight. It all depends on what we have coming in. So I'm simply asking to have some additional monies so I can make it to May, and then I can do a line transfer after that without having to ask for another reserve account transfer. And like I said, it's an account that's beyond my control. I have no, it all depends on the amount of calls that we have.
Any questions? Your request here is $2,000.
That's $2,500. That's a request that I feel will be sufficient enough to get us through May.
No,
Yes.
it's $2,000 on their paperwork.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke then, I apologize, it is $2,000, I apologize, I had another number in my head. So, $2,000 should be sufficient to be able to get us through May, and again, it's dependent, I hope not to come back. I mean, we could get hit with a week of having to call requests for, 6, 7 times, and each community charges a different amount. Ware charges currently $250 for an intercept, Brimfield charges currently $300 for an intercept, Palmer charges $200. Every community is allowed to set their rates at whatever they feel is competitive for what they're doing and the call volume that they have. So really, it's all dependent. But I feel that looking at where we are and where we've been the last couple of years and the percentages that we have to work with and the amount of calls we're having basically per month, I feel that the $2,000 would be able to get us through till May, till I can do a line transfer.
Okay, I've been through this for so many years, it's nothing new except for the ALS. And that come into being after we had service for ALS.
Correct.
We provided it, and then after that, we had to have the intercept
Yes.
to provide that type of service. And we know this particular line item is always a downfall for some fact that we don't know how many situations you're gonna have, so. I understand, so I'll put it before the board if they wanna approve the 2,000 or 2,500 or reduce it down to a lower figure, and that we meet with the board in the future. We'll be on notice that you're gonna need funding up to May.
Correct. And, I'd just like to add, Mr.
What we're
Chairman.
trying to do basically is not to replenish your budget, but to stabilize it, so.
Yes, and I think that this would stabilize it till I could do a line transfer. I don't like to do RADs. I tried to manage the budget for 3 years, as best I can and not overrun anything, but this, like I said, this particular one is out of my control, unfortunately, so.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the reserve account transfer, which is called a RAT. I don't know why they call it a RAT, but is there a motion on the floor?
Just take the first letter.
This is our number 2 RAT, so we're doing pretty good. Only have 2 RATs up to March is remarkable, because in the past, we've had them all the way from December on. And this year, we're gonna get belted with the veterans agent, because I guess he has a lot of cases out there that's pending. So it's something that we can't do anything about, but to support these 2 items, the police department, the fire department, and the veterans. So I entertain a motion. We got a motion, Jerry, rather?
I'll make a motion to accept the $2,000.
I'll second.
We have a second. Any questions? If not, I entertain a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
You got your funding. If you need reserve account
Yeah.
transfer, just let Madeline know and we'll get there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And-
I appreciate it.
And we need a copy of your.
And we should have a copy of the,
We need to sign for him.
well, usually we used to get the bills.
Thank you, Mr.
By the time, in the past, Jim used to submit the bills at the time that we get a request.
Okay.
But you're so close to that zero balance.
Yeah, most of them I have, and most of them have come in, and they're going to be on the next building schedule. I'll give to Madeline. A couple of them I'm still awaiting the actual bill from the community. So,
Well, if you look at, just for your own information, if you look at the tally sheet as of 2/25, he had $2,900 on that line. As of today, he's got $350, so he's spent, or will spend with, I know that I saw the bills myself, so there'll be a $1,550 expenditure just since the last tally sheet.
We-
So we're in good, he's It's a good thing.
I mean, that's something that we have no control.
Yeah, yeah.
I appreciate the board recognizing that.
I mean, it's not that you're going out and spending money on,
No,
it's something that you
This
should.
this is not something, this is a line item that's very specific to the cause. It's nothing that money can be moved around or spent in any other type of fashion. It's strictly to pay those mutual aid companies, communities for that assistance.
While we're signing that document, I have to bring up to the board, just personally, that we require 3 copies. I'd like to change that to having submitted 1 copy and then make copies to the various chief. And the original goes to Madeline, and we get a copy of it. So instead of having 3 papers, you just have the people make out the one request.
Okay.
I think we'll bring that in. I don't know why we haven't done it in the future, but
In the past. So that leaves our account with approximately $37,000.
Plus our other two.
$48 to be exact.
this year is less work for us.
Well, but we did pass 2 rats last week as well.
You had one for 900,
920, 962.
One for the-
952, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Whenever you had me calculated out, it was 951.60. I said for the 40 cents, you might as well write it off.
952, we passed one last week,
Yeah,
and then we passed 3,500 for Council on Aging.
you're right, okay. So 37, 34, down to about 32. And the veterans won half of that, 16.
Well, but there's been a development since that, so I can report it.
I'm just saying what they put the request in for.
But they've taken it out. Because
I
Madeline,
understand that you have to talk it over.
yeah,
I'm just going by the request that they had prior to tonight.
So, okay, now we're all set for your budget.
I think we'll disapprove it.
Overall, the budget was level funded.
Yeah.
The only increases in the budget would be contractual. Thank you very much. Would be contractual obligation. I have 2 employees, full-time employees that are due for a step raise. This is they've just completed their next 3-year cycle. So I have 2 employees that are due for the wage increase step raise. So that is accounted for in the budget, as well as the fire chief's contract. I also have a proposed budget with what the town is, the selectmen have upcoming on, or plan to put on the annual town meeting with that wage increase. The only other thing that I asked for the finance committee to consider with regard to 2 line item increase. One of them has to do with the ALS line item we were just talking about. I would like to respectfully request that line increase, the line item go from $12,000 to $16,000 to basically account for what we're here for tonight, so that we don't run into this issue. We had one other line item, which was our billing line item, which basically the company that bills all of our ambulance calls, all of our insurance, takes care of all that. That's also a revolving account. It's also based on call volume and how much they can actually collect legally from the insurance company. So we are able to fix that line item a couple of years ago. It was severely underfunded. We were able to fix that, and that's been a great fix. We haven't had any problems with it since. All I'm asking is to do the same thing with the ALS line item. I think by bringing it from $12,000 to $16,000 will pretty much put us in line. It's basically been about a $4,000 expenditure each quarter. So I'm thinking that $16,000 will get us in line with hopefully not having to deal with these issues coming down the road. Again, it's we can't bank on that and promise that's going to happen, but it'll put us in a much better position to not run into these issues before. So I'm just asking that this line item be increased for that reason. The second request that I had would be in the overtime department line item. You know, we don't have nearly the amount of overtime that other departments have, or, you know, the police have or whatever. I've tried my very best the last 3 years to stay within that and have stayed within that line item. Have not had any overages. However, you know, the reality is, I mean, we're hitting hard with this particular winter. We get hit hard with other things. I have to call in full-time employees back sometimes. That $7,500 is really tight to work with. You know, I cover a lot of extra shifts myself, you know, and which I don't mind doing, obviously, but, you know, this would give me a little bit more control and be able to allocate, you know, some different scheduling, which would be very beneficial for the department. We are running, you know, we have a good amount of staff right now. However, the times are changing. You know, there's not as many call EMTs available to do the hours that they've done in the past. You know, we're facing that problem. They're going where the money is. They're doing other jobs. They're going to other communities. They're going to other private ambulance services. So I'm trying to combat that. You know, and face that reality. So we're doing our best to recruit people. We have several EMTs we're hoping we'll be getting on the roster within the next few months. We also have some call firefighters who are starting a recruit class coming up very soon. So we're doing our best to combat that, but the reality is that it's very hard to get people to maintain that volunteering nowadays. So again, this would help, you know, cover those gaps with, you know, some full-time staff that would have to call back during storm emergencies, especially, you know, vacation weeks that full-time staff take and everything. So it would just make it considerably easier for me to work within that budget. If you read down further, my intention is to, at this upcoming annual town meeting, to put on there an article for an additional full-time firefighter EMT. And when I say full-time, you know, I'd like to let the board know that this was a position that we once had on the fire department. It was taken away from us in 2009. We lost a full-time employee, so this would not technically be a new position in the sense that this is not unprecedented. We had 5 full-time people at one point. I'd like to see us be back at that. It would help us tremendously to have coverage on the weekends and fill quite a few holes that we have right now. Again, we're doing more calls, especially on the ambulance, than we've ever done before. So this, you know, my intention is to approach and have the selectmen and finance to be able to address that issue down the road. And again, like I said, we had the 5 full-time people. We had one that was injured on duty back in 2009. That position was eventually dissolved, and I'd like to get that position back. It's been quite a few years, and quite frankly, in the time frame we are, the financial scope we are, the amount of calls that we do, it's really time to take a serious look at putting that position back on the roster. But
Any questions from the board?
I just had one question on the health and wellness. That's dropping from 6,000 to 4,000.
yes, and the reasoning for that was this last budget cycle, FY14, that I had amended an article on the floor at the town meeting to take that article from 4,000 to 6,000. The reason being that was a one-time thing because we had, at the time, 6 people that wanted to get on the department. And it is roughly $800 to $1,000 to put somebody through physicals and all the other requirements that they need to get on the department. So normally we don't have that amount of people that are looking to get on at one time. So I needed to account for that. I still am putting people through that process. So I needed that additional $2,000 to be able to, you know, to get those people on the department. I don't expect that to happen the next fiscal year, so I decreased that down, back down to its normal rate of $4,000.
Jerry?
I basically was gonna have the same question that Steve had there with the wellness. Well, I would think with your ALS there that it's a good thing that you did increase it so you don't have to keep on coming back.
And that's the purpose behind it. Like I said, it's you know, it's something that's always changing, and I think it's just time to address that one problem once and for all and get it fixed so that we don't run into that problem year after year. It's always been underfunded, and you know, just because we are doing a lot more calls and we have changing protocols, and And again, it all, just so people understand, it is a protocol issue too. We're facing a serious opium or epidemic left and right. We're required to carry more medications than we ever have been before. When we dispense those medications at certain times, we need to provide additional care for those people. So, these are some things that we're running into that have been unprecedented up until now. So we're required to carry more medications on the truck, required to have more training for the EMTs, and with that comes the responsibility of honoring those protocols and calling for additional help if we need it. So that's kind of why those numbers are changing and everything. It's just the trend of what the state is requiring us to do.
Well, basically, in the past, we always try to get a handle on approximately how many calls that you make in a year, and it just seems that we can't quite get to that number. And as the town is growing, I don't know how fast it's growing, but it's grown since this 2000, and because we're over 5,000 residents, whereas before it was stagnant at 46,000 residents. So it's pretty hard to keep that line item stable, and we understand that. That's why these reserve account transfers are available. So this has been ongoing since I've been on the finance committee and going back into the 80s. As far as the EMTs, when there was called EMTs, they were paid a minimum of so much per call, and that's where that stipend came in.
And that's still how it is today. There's approximately 10 to 12 of us that run on that ambulance and keep it going 24/7. We barely ever miss a call. We barely ever have to have another community come in, and that's phenomenal. And that is a huge commitment to do that. I mean, basically these EMTs are doing 8-hour shifts, and they're not allowed to leave town. They can't get anything done. I mean, obviously we're a small town. We don't have grocery stores. We don't have other stores to do it, so they can't really get a lot of stuff done. And so they're taking on a lot to stay in town to help out. And
as far as my opinion is concerned, is that that's one of the departments that townspeople get their money's worth, because these guys that are on call, they have to give up their weekends or whatever when they are on call. So we have to commend them for their services. And I know I've been on the fire department in the past, and it was a lot different back then because we were a smaller community. We were over 3,000 residents. So things changed since the 70s. I should go back to the 50s.
well, I appreciate you
On
recognizing.
my side, so
Yeah.
I was on the fire department in 1958. So that's a few years back.
Well, the reality is the fire department is the biggest department in town with regard to personnel, with regard to equipment. We have 2 stations. We have millions of dollars worth of equipment in those stations that need to be maintained due to national standards, due to safety standards. So we have a lot going on that we need to take care of, and it's a totally different, like the chairman just said, it's a totally different ballgame now. Those things are mandated by the federal government. The days of just doing the best you can and getting this done and that done if you can are over. We are mandated federally to get our ladders tested, our pumps tested, our vehicles maintenance properly, and we do that. And then because we have the budget that we have, we're able to do that. But the one thing we lack in is coverage, and that's why I'm going to be asking to get that one position back, because like you said, the community has changed, the amount of calls have changed, and we just need it. We just need it.
Well, basically you have to go through the board of selectmen for any
Yes.
personnel increases. It
Yeah.
has to go before the townspeople, and you have to sell it to them. And if you
Yep,
sell,
absolutely. I
if
just
you sell
wanted
it
to.
to us, and then you have to sell it to.
I just wanted the
residents.
finance
So,
committee to be aware of.
There-
what
there-
it is.
There's your people you have to get to
Yep,
support.
and I understand that.
So, outside of that, I have no questions. I understand where you're coming from. I've been there. As a matter of fact, I think I've been here too long. But I'm still. So,
Adam,
Yes.
how is your vehicle maintenance expense going?
Actually, that line item, I'm very happy with that line item. I think it's right where it needs to be. It can fluctuate from time. There are years that I've given some money back. There are years that I've had to expend the whole thing. This particular year, I'm a little bit ahead of the game as compared to last year. Last year, we had a major expense. Our engine one, it needed 6 tires. It needed all new tires, and when you're talking a vehicle that size, that's a $5,000 expenditure. So, you know, I'm comfortable with where the vehicle maintenance account is right now. It allows me to have all the pump service. It allows me to have all the trucks serviced, everything that they absolutely need to do. Obviously, all the inspections that they're required to do, ladder testing, everything that vehicle needs is taken care of on a yearly basis. So I'm very happy with where that line item is right now. You know, because again, you never know when a vehicle's gonna need a fuel tank. It could be, you know, rotting out there. These are $400,000 vehicles. They're not $30,000, you know, Crown Victorias or something like that. These vehicles need special maintenance, by, you know, qualified people that can work on them. You know, most of the stuff that is, unique to the vehicle, we have a gentleman come out and do all that. He's excellent. He does all of our pump work for us. He can fix anything on these fire trucks it is. The general air filters, oil filters and stuff we can have done, you know, in town and stuff, but the major stuff that is warranted and everything, that's all done by a professional, by a company that comes in that specifically specializes in fire apparatus.
One recommendation, since you mentioned 4 tires or 6 tires or 8 tires for a truck, to me should be a line item at whatever special town meeting or at the annual town meeting. If you think you need something of that nature, then you should submit a request for an article at a special town meeting or the annual town meeting. That way there you wouldn't be taking it out of your maintenance.
Well, I think the maintenance.
To me, tires and that is not maintenance. I think that's an item that is big enough that should be separated by an article at a meeting.
Okay.
And
That's certainly something I can
maintenance
do.
is to maintain your vehicles or the apparatus as such. That's where that type of funding should go.
Well,
So whether it's 1 tire or 10 tires, it doesn't matter?
we've always, I mean, in the past, we always have taken tires out of our vehicle maintenance because it always has been considered to be a maintenance issue with them. It's just that particular truck, that was the first time. That truck is a 1997. It's the biggest truck we have. It's our tanker, carries 2,300 gallons worth of water, so it's huge. And it has 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry, it has 8 tires on it. So it's a dual axle truck. That's the first time since it came into service that it needed tires, and that's the biggest expense that we've had. I mean, that was a $5,000 expense for that.
Well, let's put it this way, to answer your question, I would say no. But if you're gonna,
If he's gonna do the whole vehicle.
if you're gonna do the whole
put it as an
vehicle,
article.
put an article in.
Right, right.
I would
I
think
mean,
that
to
tires.
me, just use your common sense, the
Yeah.
way you think you should do it.
Oh, and that was, that particular year,
That
I
way
knew I
they-
was ahead of the game and I had the money to be able to spend that. Unfortunately, I discussed it with the selectmen. I told them that expense was upcoming, and they had said basically what you said. If you needed, you know, that's an unexpected expense per se. It's not something that happened once in 20 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, that certainly is something I could do, is to put it in under a special article for that.
Okay,
I would think the tires would be a maintenance item. I got another question for the billing and reporting. I know that whenever you use the ambulance and you bill, how is the recovery of the billings coming?
Like I said, basically, similar to the snow and ice account, similar to this ALS account, these are revolving accounts, you really can't put a number on because of the fact that when it comes to the billing, they're based on percentages. They bill on percentages. If you're dealing with Medicare and Medicaid patients, you can only collect a certain amount legally from them. They're only going to pay a certain percentage of those calls. If you're talking about private insurances, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Tufts, that kind of a thing, they can collect a much larger percentage. But again, it's based on the amount of call volume we have and the amount of insurance that comes back. So sometimes I may get a bill, it's based on 5% of whatever they collect. So if they collect $30,000 in 1 month, then it's 5% of that. If they only collect $15,000, it's only 5% of that. So my billing, when I pay them, is based on that 5% of whatever they collect. So Fortunately, by increasing that line item, which the finance committee did a couple of years ago, we were able to get into the ballpark of where we needed to be. So in the last 3 years, we have not overspent that budget, which has been fantastic. So basically, we get 2 bills a month from them. We get one bill that accounts for the 5% percentage of whatever they collected that month, and we also get a upload fee bill of, usually it runs between $250 and $286 a month, give or take. That is to take all of the ambulance calls we did that month off of our mainframe, take them in, intake them, and then bill them out to the people. So there's 2 different bills. The collection rates with regard to that, we make approximately $150,000 to $160,000 a year doing ambulance calls. Obviously, there are some collections that we're not, you know, we do have some people, unfortunately, we're required, we can't deny anybody any care. And we never would, whether or not they can pay for the call or not. Most of our calls, we do get compensation for, but certainly we do have some calls of people that are uninsured, people that may have some sort of substance abuse problem, and they're probably not gonna pay us, you know, but we can't deny them any care, neither can a hospital. So we have a good collection rate as far as I'm concerned with this company. You know, prior to how we did things before, we've seen a great increase in the amount of money that we collect. So I think we're definitely heading in the right direction. I think that we collect a decent amount of money for the amount that we pay them each year. But certainly due to regulations and standards, we can only collect a certain amount, and you know, to use a phrase, you can't get blood from a stone on some people. I mean, you're just not going to collect on some people, and there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We're not unique. This is happening in every community that runs an ambulance service.
Okay, there's no more questions. We'll entertain that we're satisfied with your explanations, and that we will get back to you if we make any changes on it. As far as I can see, I don't see much of a change on your request. I think the board will probably go 100%, but there might be one person or a member that thinks something else should be changed, but I think that the budget looks pretty close to last year's, which we requested that you funded the same as last year's budget. So we thank you for coming.
So if we have time tonight, we'll vote on your budget tonight.
Sure.
I'll email you with a recommendation. If we don't, it'll be next Tuesday, because we meet on Tuesdays
Okay.
to go over budgets again. So you'll see an email that gives you that. We haven't done that in the past, but we're gonna start that process.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much,
for
gentlemen.
coming.
Appreciate it.
I think we're going to go over time here, but I don't think you minded it too much. So your turn.
Okay.
Would you updated it?
Yeah, we updated his.
I can't get these pages. This hand is. I'll have to go left-handed. We need tabs on these.
Oh my God.
Okay, I got it. There's only one page away.
I want to point out to the board that the 3 last items, line items on this page, Madeline changed the verbiage, and I have made that adjustment that it's police maintenance and utilities, police building repair, and police janitor. That is the old town hall expenditures.
Alrighty.
I only have a couple of things that I can offer to the
I'm gonna
board.
point out one thing here.
Sure.
I've been on this board many years, and we only got one sheet here.
No, you've got a whole packet.
I only got this one sheet here.
What I gave you last week.
We passed it out last week.
Well, anyways.
They're in this packet
I
here.
got this page here. Go ahead, we're listening.
Okay. In this year's budget, I have a proposal to promote a sergeant. And based on the current contract, promoting a sergeant would increase the salary line item by $11,553. And what I can tell the board is that Sergeant LaFlower is 3 years away from mandatory retirement. He's maxed on his pension right now. I don't know what his intentions are about staying or leaving. I think part of that may be contingent on how the current contract negotiations go for the association as a whole. But then again, I can't answer for him. But regardless, I need to have someone step up into that position. I'll need at least a year to groom them into that position. And as I said, 3 years from next month, Sergeant Flower is facing mandatory retirement. He could actually walk in at any day and say he's retiring. I don't know. If that happens, I'd actually see a significant reduction in my salary line. The other thing that I can tell the board is that Patrolman Chase is currently out. If his position is resolved, if he comes back to work, then that figure will remain constant. If he does not return to work and we can get him off the books, I'll also see a very significant reduction in my salary line. But regardless, I'm asking for that $11,553 to promote a second employee to the rank of sergeant in the anticipation of Sergeant LaFlower leaving and/or Patrolman Chase not coming back. I know there's some contractual issues being discussed now with the Board of Selectmen. I can't speak on any of them. I don't know what they are. It's between the board and the association. As soon as that document is signed, then these budget figures may change. The increases in salary are contractual, and because they are contractual, they have a trickle-down effect through part-time coverage, overtime vacation coverage, overtime sick coverage, overtime personal day coverage, holiday pay, holiday overtime, and that's, but it has a trickle-down effect because of the increase in salaries. In regards to training, I increased the training for all officers based on the Massachusetts Police Training Commission this year is mandating 40 hours of in-service training. Now, in prior years, the MPTC was grossly underfunded. They received a significant increase this year, and they've increased training. In meeting with the area chiefs and the MPTC, they are mandating 40 hours of training for each officer. So to reflect that, the MPTC is requesting that we adjust our budgets accordingly and figure that money in, so there's an increase in training as well. The only other thing in my budget is I put a police cruiser under expenses, and in having discussions with capital planning, the town treasurer, the board of selectmen, and this board also, a police cruiser is not a luxury, it's an operating expense. And to put it into the budget, I think may be an easier way for us to make sure that our fleet doesn't become as severely out of date as it is now. Right now I'm running a line car that has actually been in service. This is the 9th year. Statistically, and I can provide those statistics to the board if it wants, statistically a police car lasts 3 years. This car's in its 9th year. The other one is in its 6th year, and fortunately, we drove to town today with 2 brand new cars. The unfortunate thing is the 2 that I've still got online, I need to keep in service, because right now, even with the 2 new cars, I have nothing to back them up. If I have a breakdown, God forbid an accident, a recall, or any type of extended downtime on a car, I have nothing to back it up with. If we put a car in the budget and the town approves it at the May town meeting, then it would give us the opportunity to replace another car in the fall. Once the money's approved, I can make the order in July or August, and we'd see that car probably September, October, November, somewhere in that area. But I would have a current, up-to-date fleet, and then I could probably skip a year not getting a car, and then the year after that, I may be interested in replacing an admin car. But those are the major increases. The increases in dispatch, again, all subject to the personnel bylaw and the current rates that the employees are getting based on seniority. There are no major changes to the dispatch budget. So those are the major changes.
And the town hall, but the building budget is stagnant as well.
Which, the town hall
Your
budget.
police maintenance, your police repair, your police janitor.
Those will remain, those are constant also. He's subject to the personnel bylaw as
Right.
well. He does not see an increase this year, so.
Well,
Actually,
he may, if in fact
They
the
pass.
selectmen pass that, he may get a small.
I actually provided the Board of Selectmen with an updated budget to reflect those figures. They do have those numbers.
Any questions?
Actually, I do have one. It does say that the police maintenance and utilities budget is going down, it looks like, from 2015
Oh, I'm
to
sorry.
2016.
Yes, we have, a couple of years back, we changed from oil heat to gas heat. We saved a substantial amount of money. Now, in addition to that, my janitor, who has been a godsend to us, has done a lot of insulating, weather stripping, and we've been able to save some money. So I looked back historically over that line, and in the last, before this fiscal year, dating back 5 years, I took a statistical average. It came up with $2,200 a month average in expenses for the town hall. When I figured in the current year, that number went down, so I was able to reduce that line, I want to say, to around,
Looks like 21.6 here is,
divided by the,
and that doesn't include
the town hall expenses averaged $1,800. I was able to drop it $300 a month for about an $1,800 savings. Excuse me, $3,600 savings. The town hall repair account is an encumbered account, and right now we're looking at a significant expense there. We just had a sewer line that froze. It was out of commission for about 3 days. We had a company come in. This is the second time in 2 years that it froze. Once the thaw has taken place, we're gonna have a plumbing company come in and look at alternatives to that line to see if there's another way they can route it or otherwise insulate it so the freeze-up doesn't occur again. The company that fixed it told me they stuck a camera in. The line was frozen 70 feet in, and he's telling me that the line is only about 2 1/4 feet underground, which is why it froze. So we're looking to plumb it into the other line. That could be a very significant expense, but I anticipate that that will be covered under this year's budget.
all right?
I do have the one thing that sticks out to me more than anything, I mean, the car, I understand you want it to be in the expense line, but I truly believe that has to go on the floor. But my bigger concern is with the sergeant's salary increase. And I'm not so sure that a sergeant should get the increase without the training. So how does that work? How do you know when you need to start training that person and then award them that salary? It seems like they should be in training so that by the time Officer LaFleur leaves, then they might get this increase. But to increase them preliminarily before they've been trained, I know it's a catch-22, but the fact is, we don't know about Mr. LaFleur's situation. And it's hard for us to really concentrate on keeping a tight budget with an if. That's my only concern with that line.
Okay, in order to give someone the responsibilities and the training, they have to make the promotion first. Contractually, if they made a sergeant, they get sergeant's pay. So that's governed by contract also. The other thing, if someone is promoted to sergeant, it would be with a 1-year probationary period. So if that person doesn't complete the sergeant's training, which I believe now is a 3 to 4 week training through MPTC, they're on that 1-year probation. If it doesn't work out after a year, it's not working out, that person gets demoted back down to patrolman. But I anticipate that within the near future, we're going to resolve Officer Chase's position and or see Sergeant LaFleur leave.
And currently, there's one sergeant position?
One.
Okay,
The department formerly had 2.
okay.
And it worked out well. I've asked for the second sergeant's position in the past. It wasn't approved. There's a lot of responsibility administratively. I delegate a lot of that to my assistant, and I delegate a lot to the sergeant, but there's still a ton of it. I know Mr. Mongeon was down in my office today, he saw what the top of my desk looked like. I would like to be able to, delegate some of those administrative responsibilities to another sergeant, and again, in anticipation of having all my ducks in a row when the sergeant retires. And that's not a process that's gonna happen overnight.
I have no questions. I know mostly the budget reflects on a contract anyways, as far as salaries are concerned.
Yeah, that's,
So that basically takes it out of our hands anyways, through contract negotiations. But we try to hold the line, which probably is tough to hold the line.
I understand the town's predicament.
Level-funded. I mean, he can only level funded so many years, and we've been doing it for the last 10 years. We've been asking various departments to hold the line, and they've done a hell of a job. Most people don't realize it, but they keep the expenditures down as much as possible. And we had to support all agencies, all departments as much as possible for their requests, so.
What I
that's
can
what
share
I-
also with the board is that at the beginning of this fiscal year, our department saw some very significant expenses that were unexpected. One of them was the complete replacement of our computer server. Last July, our computer server crashed and it could not be recovered. We had to purchase a brand new system. That expense is about $6,500. Shortly after that, the administrative car that I drive required about $3,000, somewhere in that vicinity of work. In addition to that, we had some significant medical expenses for a member of the department. Those expenses in total were close to $10,000, and I'm happy to say that as of this point, I won't be in front of you for a wrap. Unless something else dramatic happens, we've cut corners, we've held back on things, we've purchased as little as we can to maintain our budget. And right now, my numbers are looking okay. I thoroughly anticipated coming before the board this spring for a $10,000 wrap based on prior years. I had the support of the Board of Selectmen explaining the situation. They assured me they would support it if the need be, but as of today, it doesn't look like that need is going to be.
Well, we have no more questions. We'll put it under advisement and we'll let you know what the committee here is, make recommendations on what they will support and what they won't support. We'll notify you if there's any changes as such.
Okay, and again, I extended the invitation to capital planning on Monday night. If any members of the board have any questions, I'm here at 6:30 in the morning.
I'd like a copy of what you gave Lorena, because I just need to know my bottom line, no matter how the money was assorted.
I should have printed that for you today.
I need to have
It's
a
on
bottom
sheet
line
2 on my
correct.
Excel spreadsheet. Okay. If you just give me a yell tomorrow, I'll print it up for you, or I can leave it in the dispatch for you.
Okay, good check.
Wonderful. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yep. Thank you for coming. So we got, nobody else coming?
That's it.
No, we got to deal with the library, the highway department, sewer department.
I still have those to make with, but I don't have the library paperwork, as you heard tonight. Well, you weren't here hearing, but we're so awful to be sitting in front of, so.
What was the? Yes, well, I was just.
It was about the library and how they're gonna try to yoke them together, or are we gonna have one building, or, it was just a discussion.
Was it with the selectmen or was it?
Selectmen, and then members of each group were here with their boards.
Okay.
We had a pretty good crowd here, that's all I know. I couldn't find a seat to come in and listen,
About 22.
and I didn't want to barge in. So,
Before we get started talking about budgets, I did get a quotation from Staples for our report. And Madeline will get me the information as to what we paid last year, but the quote came in for this size report, we would pay $426 for 400 copies. If we were to go with the smaller report, it would be $376, but we could hand out more copies. It depends on how much you want to spend. To date, we've spent $185 out of our expense account for our new books, you know, our CDs for our new manuals. So basically, we have 800 and something left to be able to do our books with. Now, last year, what we had used our budget on were those reports that we passed out about how the spending was going because of the situation with the school. And I do think that we're gonna have to do something once that budget hits us, because it's double. I mean, our cost to us as a town, it's potentially going to be double. So we need to be able to react to that and be able to give the community some kind of a report as to how it affects their tax rate.
Yeah. Personally, I like the smaller format anyways. I'm just used to getting town reports that way from other towns.
I think that it was decided in the past by one selectman that this was difficult to read, and that's why we went to this format. It's $100 difference, but like I said, if we decide we want to put out that other report, I don't want to be short the money. But it doesn't mean we can't just do the 400. The town clerk advised me that we didn't have enough reports to go around last year. They were passed out late, as you remember. People were getting them at a town meeting, they weren't getting them at the vote where they were supposed to. So I'm trying to get that wrapped up really fast, but we're gonna have to make a decision. And I'll get the quote that Madeline got from last year, and we can make a decision next Thursday.
Let me throw it out to you two people. What book would you prefer? The larger one. I personally like the smaller book because I've worked with it for so many years that I'm comfortable with it. But there are some desired aspects to the larger because the print is much larger. And, as being elderly like we are, that it's a lot easier to do. So I'll leave it to the board.
I'm chasing.
Have you checked with Roberts and Palmer? They do printing.
I have quotes out, I'm just waiting for them to respond. I hadn't heard from my quotes, so I just went over to Staples, because I needed to react, we gotta get it done. That's all.
When do you plan on printing up the report?
When we get done with the budgets.
Well, the report, I
Sooner
have
the
to
better.
wait for information to come from the selectman's office, I have to wait for the articles, I have to wait. And really, my deadline before the vote is the Friday before the vote, I need to get that to print. And at Staples, they'll turn it around a lot faster. So, I need to be able to react to that.
Okay?
So you got a timetable which is very short.
It's very short.
Lee, what date are you talking about?
Is the vote? The vote is it the first week of May?
Voting must be first week.
The vote is the 5th, and I believe our town meeting is the 12th.
Yeah,
Okay.
it would be 7
Let
days
me-
later.
So I need to get it to print the Monday before, so that I can get it to the polls or to Nancy that Monday before the election.
Okay, when do you have to submit it for printing?
The 27th of April.
27th of April?
Mhm.
Okay, so basically capital planning would have to get their stuff to you by the 20th of April.
Well, if it's formatted, it's not a problem, because it's a one-page, it's your
Yep.
one-page report, so it's
Yep.
not a problem, all I do is clip and paste it, it's a very easy procedure. The problem that we have with this is we have an empty page, an empty page, an empty page, an empty page, an empty page. It's like there's a lot of wasted space here.
Can I see a smaller?
Yeah.
So I have to have mine to you by April 20th.
Or that week.
That's not that bad.
Yeah, that's right.
But our report reflects all of the meetings, the way the voting went or the transfers were, and then it has our general budget. The other thing that held Sue up last year was the school. That negotiation dragged and dragged and dragged. She had a hard time because she can't react to something that won't move.
And do we know when we're gonna see their budget yet?
I have not heard anything about the budget. I understand that there's a preliminary one that's been posted on the Warren website, but I have not yet seen it. And then, of course, the articles have to be written as well by the select board, so it's not just us that, controls that time.
And another thing we got a problem with is the reserve account transfers that we passed last year. I don't know where they are. Susan had control of all the.
But
they should
Madeline
be-
told me she has the record of the transfers.
Well, you get the ability to get them, I don't have it.
Yeah.
Cause I was upstairs. and-
Well-
While they were meeting down here, I went upstairs and went back to our cabinet. And saw stuff that when I was on chairman previously, how I operated, and I could find my reserve account transfers upstairs.
Mm.
Whereas the other ones, they're all over the place. As a matter of fact, we got a filing cabinet full of stuff that goes back many years, and I don't know if it's useless now.
Well, my plan this year is, because we're shorthanded, Nancy's already given me the special town meeting articles, the reports from the past meetings. I preliminarily have the budget as we've been looking at it, as we've been passing it. So a majority of this document I could put into another document and print them out for us to approve. But I have Madeline's eyes looking at them as well, because I want somebody to look at the figures. She she looks at those budgets the same way I do, in that we're making sure that the totals are corrected. And then she's the one that puts it into the report. So what she puts in, I put in, and we'll double check our work that way.
Okay, as long as you got it covered, because I can't help you there now.
But that's all I have.
You're doing a good job so far. So keep it up.
Okay.
But you're getting me all mixed up here. I get too many papers, too many changes.
Do we have anything for tonight that you have from the,
Well, no, we don't have any reserve account transfers outside that one.
anything for
The only
dates?
thing we didn't discuss really is the Pathfinder Regional Vocational Meeting.
now that's next
Wednesday.
That's
Wednesday?
next Wednesday, and we were supposed to get back to them by the 10th, and today's what, the 12th?
They're not gonna say no.
Huh?
They're
Well,
not
I know
gonna say
they
no.
won't, but I just wanna bring it up, how many are going? I can't go because I'm gonna have minor surgery on my elbow.
Either one of you are gonna be
So I don't
going?
know if I'd be under,
It's a Wednesday night?
Wednesday. At 7 o'clock, right? I can go to that.
So I'll put in for 2 people.
you wanna give them a call? Or I can give them a call. It's
No,
up to you.
I'll come. And I don't know if any of the selectmen are going to that either.
Well, I don't know, well,
Last year, I don't believe we had a selectman with us. So are we going to discuss the 2 budgets we had tonight, or are we going to just review them again and vote on it next Tuesday like we've been doing, or?
we meeting Tuesday?
No, we've been doing it and we gotta
I
get.
know, but I didn't.
We gotta get these budgets put together. I'd like to be able to finish up the rest, less the school for next week.
Okay, what I'm gonna have to do is adjourn this meeting to Tuesday night, because we're not posted. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
This way, if we adjourn to Tuesday, it'll cover.
okay.
that if we make decisions, then I'm pretty sure that'll cover us. Because we didn't adjourn. I was under the impression that we were gonna meet every Tuesday, and I thought that, meeting with the Board of Selectmen 2 weeks ago was just, it wasn't what I expected, let's put it this way. That, we were gonna discuss how we were gonna handle some of these situations that were coming up, such as people not signing up for appointments to meet with us and getting their budgets in. I thought that meeting was to be, but evidently we all got a different take on it.
Is Highway coming in next Thursday?
I don't know who signed up yet. But we've got 2 more weeks and then,
Because we also have the libraries too, right?
well,
Or is that?
I don't know. They'll come in and see us or not.
Okay.
Oh, well.
But, you
You
know,
mean that we do not tell them when we want to quit?
No, they usually sign up
they sign up for their time.
to their best. We're here, we let them know we're gonna be here, and they sign up if they wanna meet that particular night. We don't tell them. At their discretion.
Because in capital planning, I usually tell them when to come in.
Oh, I'm not tough like that. I'm
It's not
mild.
how, I did it the way we've always done it, so there's a sign-up
That's
sheet.
what we always done.
Right.
You're a different committee than we are. You gotta be bullish on that committee. We don't have to be, we just have to listen and give them a viable budget that they can live with. That's our job. So, if you wanna go over it, I have none.
You want to go over these two?
I'd like to get
I don't-
as many as we can
I don't
As far as I'm
understand
concerned, I have nothing,
recommended.
I want to
why.
take a motion. If you wanna vote on it,
I think Jerry's trying to say something. Sorry.
have a good night, thank you.
Hi, guys.
It was very civil, I like that.
What's that? Civil? You don't know my temper. As long as you behave, I behave, we're all set. That's like, ladies and gentlemen.
Is our camera still on?
I don't understand why we have to meet on Tuesday. I thought the reason why we were meeting
That's
on
what I thought too, but
Tuesday was because the
Okay,
selectmen were
terrible.
going to be there and
Because why?
the selectmen were going to be there.
Well, that broke down because of them.
So,
If you think that we could next Thursday blow through these budgets and approve or disapprove, the problem is that several of these departments,
the only
we
one,
have an assessor problem that we have to deal with. I have the highway budget. The school's gonna be a separate night, we're just gonna have to be there for that. I believe that there's a review of that budget next Monday. We haven't seen the treasurer yet.
so the treasurer's budget, a lot of it, we have no control over it.
Right.
I mean, they have mandated items
And then this, like the sewer department,
we really.
I don't have to record, you know, like I have certain things I have to record, but it's more the Board of Health.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not reporting on the water department, I'm not reporting on the sewer department, but they have to come in anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
They're,
Actually, it doesn't look like I have to report them either, the sewer department in here.
usually there's not too much.
No.
Well,
Well, we still have to
Most-
review
most-
them, but that can be after the fact, that doesn't.
most of those are articles anyways.
Right.
in sewer department. They come through an article to allow them to expend the money.
So I just put it back to you. If you think that in 2 weeks we can clean up these budgets, then other than the school, because we know the school's gonna take some time, then we don't have to meet on Tuesday. It's up to you.
I don't think we need this Tuesday. Where is the,
So we have the 19th and the
Well, that's
28th.
St. Patrick's Day next Tuesday, huh?
yeah, we don't want to meet on St. Patty's.
That's when Kenny drinks his green beer.
I don't drink, so.
He won't be ready for the meeting.
Oh. The 26th, we should make it a D-Day, you know? Or should we make it here, which is
In April.
the 2nd of April? So,
Let's use that as just in case.
let's
Let's use the
let's put it-
26th
Let's
as
put
our-
it this way, what's your timetable that you think you can operate in?
I would like to get these budgets all finished by the end of
I
March,
do too,
so that I can work on this book.
I agree with you. I
So-
know it's,
And we're not, you know, we caught
No,
up,
no.
we did quite a few, and we've caught up quite a bit in 2 weeks from where we were, you know.
why don't we do this? We're gonna meet next Thursday, skip the 17th, and I'll post for the 24th, and if we don't need it, I'll cancel it. Then you get the 24th and the 26th.
All right,
Is that doable?
It's fine.
This way I'll have a post that for 5:30.
You need a piece of paper to remember that? You wanna write that down?
Now,
Are you sure? Okay.
I only have problems with these papers. Shuffling these papers. Then you keep bringing me more papers than I
You're
need.
cleaned up now, you're fine.
So, yes,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just, is there if I have Barry a question?
I,
Is there if I have Barry something? I just wanted to ask Barry a question about a budget.
you wanna ask Barry?
Yeah, that's okay.
If Barry recognizes you, she can do it.
Go for it.
Yeah, sure. On the particular, I'm assuming that the Board of Selectmen have a line item for town council expenses. Do you happen to know if that is correct? And so what I was curious to know is what was, so I'm assuming it's a separate line item for legal expenses or whatever. So I was just curious to know what is the current budget amount and what they have spent so far? And I'm asking you
Okay.
because you have that
I
report.
can't tell you that, because this report
Oh.
is out of date now. I can't tell you that, but I can tell you
Oh, okay.
that their line item,
25,000
is $25,000.
is what they're requesting for next year. So, which is the same as they had this year.
Right,
Oh, okay. So basically, the annual budget is 25,000?
that's what they're requesting this year for next year.
Oh, okay. Oh,
And
well, that's what it
we
is for
passed
this
last
fiscal year.
That's what
Okay,
we
and then
passed
they're
last
asking the
year.
same amount for next year.
Right.
Okay. So that other report you have doesn't show what they
No,
use?
because it's been updated, Madeline has put all kinds of expenses against it, I can't give you an accurate figure
Oh,
on that.
okay.
It's not as stagnant as like a salary item, that's an item that changes on a daily basis, so I can't give you an accurate
Oh,
figure.
oh, okay. Do you happen to have what the current figure when that report was printed, if you don't mind? I know it's not, to date, to today, at least what, what it was when the report was printed.
I think it's account 151, it looks like.
Yeah, it falls under a different, as of February 25th, they had expended 82% of their budget. So you can do the math. That's
Okay.
what I have.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you very much, appreciate it.
We can vote on finance, our budget.
Well, let me see if we didn't already.
I don't think we did, but
Also cemetery and
we got the cemetery.
conservation commission. So
We did FinCom last week.
we didn't do the conservation commission yet, did
We didn't do Concom, no,
And cemetery, right?
and we did not do cemetery.
And both of those seem to be, there's a bit of an increase. Oh, but that's due to probably the salary, but
Concom is a clerical,
actually they do have something going up.
and then cemetery is
They got a level funded.
third level funded, yeah.
Yeah.
We might as well take a vote on that, and then we're putting a vote.
So,
A motion for the cemetery,
I make a motion to approve the cemetery budget as proposed.
second motion.
motion Steve. Ken, you seconding?
I'll second. He wants to hear me say that.
Okay.
He's staring me down. Conservation and motion. Oh,
Wait a minute.
reading book. I'm getting ahead of
Don't get ahead of
myself.
yourself, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
But why did the-
Conservation Commission.
Why did the Conservation Commission, why did that go up, say, almost $600?
Yeah, I'm wondering.
Hold on.
It looks like.
In light of the Concom having new office staff, I'm submitting their budget for them. Rachel, the new secretary, stated that she spoke with Joyce, chair of Concom, and have requested to increase their expense line to $2,000. The increase is requested due to having a full complement of commissioners, which require not only initial education and training, as well as continuing education. The added funds would also cover MACC dues, handbooks, and attendance at annual conference. They are also looking to purchase a new computer. Salary line item would stay the same.
Yeah, the computer would have to be a capital item, right? Or is it, if it's under 5,000?
It's under 5,000.
But I have reached out to them. I went to their meeting this week and I said, if you've got a change here,
Yeah.
I really think you should be here. So they were supposed to have signed, but I haven't seen this, I haven't been in there.
So do you want to wait on that?
I think we should wait on that one just because I think she wants to come in and talk to you.
Sure.
Last time we were here, we voted on the assessor budget. But we all voted and I don't think we were supposed to.
I can vote on it.
Oh,
Did you recuse yourself from the vote? Because I don't have that in my notes.
I don't recall that.
We had talked about it, the three of us had talked about it, remember? And you had said, I have to recuse myself because I can't talk about that.
Yeah.
But I think when we did the vote the next week,
I don't think I voted.
right? I got Jerry with the motion, I got Steve with the second, but I got 4-0.
I think you did
just an
vote,
error,
Kenny.
yeah.
So how do we amend that so that, can we re-vote and make it kosher so that it's legal and binding and all that good stuff?
Yeah, you can do that.
Right there.
I don't recall saying aye, because I very seldom say aye anyways. I really didn't vote this last time either, so. I just let it go by. So that's the way you got it, we should make a correction, yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna make a correction for assessors.
So you wanna make it 3 and 1 abstention?
No, now that he's explained that we can do it, there is a problem with the assessor's budget, and they need to come before us and represent their budget. After talking with Mary Lou, she wasn't under the, she didn't understand somehow that she didn't have to come before us because she's actually got 2 things that she wants to increase, as well as the ones that we're doing for the clerical. She's got 2 issues she wants to increase, and I said, you or your board or both have to come before us and make that presentation. The budget she sent me was for just the increases to the salaries.
I was gonna say, I don't see any other.
But she didn't add in to that those salaries, the proposed stipend and/or extra monies for doing all of the solar farming extra work that
So
she's
she's
doing.
got an incomplete budget?
So it's not really complete because for the fact that her board didn't submit this, she did. And I wasn't aware of how it works, so I want to make sure it's on the level. I talked with her about it. I said, you need to have your board represent you with these large expenditure additions to your budget. You can't, I don't believe you can do it without your board knowing. They may know, but I still feel the board should be here. Am I wrong? Shouldn't somebody be here to represent a change in the budget?
They always have been.
Right. So she knows that she's supposed to make a date with us. So I would like to reverse, can we reverse that vote so that now it's back on the table to be reviewed?
Well,
Well,
the
specifics
thi-
change.
the thing that you could do is you could say that they're gonna come in with a revised
I'm trying to
budget,
think
and
of the
therefore
word.
your vote that was taken would be
For a
null and
motion.
void.
Yeah.
You could make a proposal of that,
So should I make a motion to?
make a motion that,
I'm trying to think how you wanna word it.
make a motion that they have to revise their budget, and the one that was voted on will be null and void, the vote.
That's what I'm saying. That's my
Okay.
motion.
That's your motion?
That's my motion.
I'll second.
Jeez, I didn't even see your lips move.
I'm real good. So I made the motion. Steve seconded.
Steve seconded.
Jerry
And you have to say, oh, you can't say, and you know what, we can't vote on this either, can we?
we're gonna have a quorum.
Yes,
And
we
we-
do.
You have a quorum, you got 4 people here.
So we have a quorum, but not a voting quorum, is that right?
What?
I don't think that's,
Three and zero.
3 and 1
is
abstention.
a vote.
No,
not
it
a
would-
quorum.
No, it would be,
It
to
was-
re,
You need a quorum to be here.
to revise
The vote
the
could be
budget.
3 and
You
0.
could just, all 4 of us
2
would
and
say
1.
yes.
Yeah.
Majority rules.
Okay,
That's the way I take it.
let's do it, and then I'll get a justification on it. If there's any problem, we'll deal with it next time.
Try
So-
to think,
But you can't say all in favor, but he can because he's assistant chair, right?
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Like,
abstain.
And absence. Very good. And if we did it wrong, we'll
Well-
fix it the next time.
I don't think nobody had crucified him. If they do, well. Are we gonna vote on the police fire chief?
After his explanation, I really don't have any issues with what he's requested. I just want you to be
Are
aware.
you talking fire?
Fire department, I want you to be aware that the line in which he's doing the overtime from 7,500 to 10,000, he's only expended right now 70% of that budget. So he's kind of right on track with his budget. I just want to point that out. But
Well, why don't you? Cut the number down, the request, no?
well, I'm just putting that out. I'm not saying that's bad or good. I'm just letting you know that
Let's put it this way.
as of today,
What's the amount jump? From what to what?
from 7,500 to 10,000.
33% jump.
2,500? That's a moderate increase.
I would,
Well, it's a
The
third.
percentage wise, it's not.
It's a
dollar-wise,
30%
it's-
increase. Yeah.
Percentage wise, no.
Yeah.
well, you know, you look into your crystal ball,
Well, let's go back this way here. We asked for level funded, let's just say we're level funded, play it from there.
Well, but then that would raise the other issue of the other item that he's tried to, that we agree with.
what, the ALS?
Right, ALS, we agree with him on that one.
But he has submitted rats in previous years, right?
He has.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the things that we're working on, right? Trying to kind of get these budgets up to where they're actually hitting.
And actually, his numbers, once Madeline looked at them, on the ALS accounts, 1 year with transfer and with rats, he got, in 2013, he got $5,500 and he returned 1.6, so he actually expended $4,000, which is just about perfect with what he's asking for. The second year, he had $12,000, he returned $50,000.
$50?
Right. And then this year, that budget is right on the edge. Like he said, he's only gonna be at 350 now. So he's kind of made a stance for this increase as he's gone, since in his tenure.
Yeah.
He's done a good job with making the point. I mean, the paramedic
So
thing,
what's the highest he's been in the last few years, did you say?
Well, last year was 384,
yeah, it's there.
the whole budget.
Oh, I see, yeah, which is less than the 2013 budget, right? And I assume that's because of the chief's salary going down after the retirement of the
Yeah.
former chief.
Yeah, there's one, and there's a fire department expense that went way down as well, almost $9,000. So, you know, it's kind of rocking and rolling that budget. One of the things
The
that,
difference between his 2015 and 2016 is $9,000.
right,
The life went up by 4, the salaries went up by 3, and the chief's salary went up by 1. That's a total of 8.
And then they went down 2.
Yeah.
Wellness.
So you know, you're talking about $3,000. And I think it's a minor
Well,
amount.
one of the things that Adam brought up to me, which I was not I wasn't aware of it, so I'm glad he talked with me about it, was that the collections that he makes.
Oh, I could tell you
That
that.
$150,000 worth of collections that
It's
goes
a
in,
lot.
and it goes in, but it goes into the general fund.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So, you know, to give him $2,500 after he's collected 150 grand,
Yeah.
I don't think that that's
It's a
absorbent.
nickel and dime.
No, I don't think so either.
Well, the other thing was, he kind of also addressed that issue a little bit with the 7,500, and he said he was kind of managing towards that number, right?
Right.
And he was using kind of the salaried position to
Offset,
bear that.
yeah.
So, yeah. So, again, if you give him 10,000, I'm sure we'll see it go up closer to the 10,000 than the 7,500. But, yeah, they are pulling in quite a bit more money than.
Yep.
You know, basically, the ambulance should be separate
Well,
area. You know what I mean? It should have 2 budgets, one for firefighting and one for the ambulance.
it goes back quite a few years where it wasn't, it isn't split. If we want to institute that, you can we can report it that way, we're not gonna change numbers.
No.
But we can report it
Yeah,
in a different format.
yeah.
Um,
Like this here is all, boom, one line item, you know? That is separate.
I mean, if you consider that the 150,000 that he collects out of the 386,000 that he needs, he really does recoup a lot more budget than any other department really does.
Yeah, if you look at the expense and the value that you get out of that, I mean, compared to, say, the police department, you know, it's quite a difference. Just because of the nature of the beasts.
Do we feel confident to vote?
I don't.
I have no problem with it.
I feel confident to vote.
Yeah.
So, if everybody wants to vote on it, I will entertain a motion to submit the budget as submitted to the townspeople.
I'll make a motion to accept the budget.
A second?
Second.
You?
Heard? Yes.
Steve? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, good. Do we want more time for the police department, or do we want to just talk about it? I mean, we're almost done. you
We
know.
don't, unless you're not comfortable with it.
I'm not comfortable about giving a salary before someone's trained.
Well, that's a pretty big jump, actually.
It's a good sized leap.
The
But-
thing I would say is, well, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you.
Well, no, I'm just saying that that's really my only concern, and I don't agree
Want
with
to
him
think about
that,
it?
I
You
don't-
have to do it.
I don't agree that the car should be embedded in this, into this budget
No.
at all.
Absolutely not.
So,
That's just like the fire department
it wouldn't matter
or
even
the
if,
highway department.
right, it wouldn't matter even if we thought that he should have it.
It's not our
It's not
decision.
our
It
decision
goes
to
against the
make.
5,000 three-year
Yeah.
rule, right, so.
Yeah.
If
We,
Now,
If
did
you
he
take-
ever come to capital
If
planning?
you, huh?
Did he ever come to capital planning?
Yeah, he comes to capital planning.
No, but did he come to discuss that car?
He discussed the car, we did not, we didn't really take a vote on it because we don't vote on it until we run over everything that everybody brings in, okay? And then we go through the thing and, you know, we can't really vote on everyone as they come in individually, we have to kind of look at the.
Wait till everybody's
Yeah.
in?
Okay, if you look at his budget from one year to the other, is increase of $67,000. If you take out the car, it's 27. If you look at the salaries, it's 25, so you're talking about
It's all salary.
25 to 27. You got a $2,000 difference roughly. I just rounded these figures off, so, you know,
Now, does that include the new sergeant salary?
that includes everything. What I did is I took
Peggy wants two
the,
sergeants.
I took the,
861?
I took the 906, and I took the 839. Okay, it's 38.9 something, so I rounded off all these figures. I'm not messing around with hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
I rounded it off, I got 27 taking the car out. I did the salaries, and that's 25, so the difference between the two is $2,000.
Okay.
I would think that the car, as in prior budgets, was not in there, you probably wouldn't do it, but as I understand it, other communities do put the car into the budget. And it has not been our practice to do that.
Right.
So, as I say, I take out the 40,000, gives me 27 to 25. And the 25 is basically contract, so you're talking about $2,000 mashed in between all of these other expenses, which probably is not worth scrutinizing it. I don't know how anybody else feels, but
No, I don't think that $40,000 item should go in there, his budget. If he wants that done, he should submit it to the townspeople. We shouldn't make that decision for the townspeople. That's not our job.
Well, what about something like having a second sergeant on? Would that be something that would also be, you know, the people?
That's a recommendation of the board of selectmen to authorize that.
They've
yeah,
recommended it?
I don't know.
Oh,
the Board of Selectmen would
I
be
don't
the
know.
one to say that they're gonna get that.
okay.
I mean, they're the keepers of the police department. We're not.
But that's what I would say, why would we be voting on that if it's not necessarily?
Well, if, I
That's a
feel,
salary item, so.
I feel that if he is going to have a sergeant, increase the sergeant, that you're gonna have to come back for rats on the thing, and going into my accounting or controller mode, I would say that provide for all losses, which would be the $11,000, so to speak, as a loss, in a sense, okay? That I would provide for that.
In case they get it
Yeah.
approved and put up.
Provide for all losses accounting-wise and anticipate no gains.
That's like putting the cart before the horse.
What?
But
Well-
we don't know if they're gonna authorize a second,
Okay, then if that's,
Sergeant?
if that's the case, then the thing that you do is you take out the $12,000.
Well,
You take out the 12,000,
I think
you
we
take
better
out the
wait and
40,000,
discuss
so
that
you
with the
take out
board.
$52,000.
I think I would go before the board as well with this one.
Yeah.
Go to a selectmen's meeting and put it on the agenda and say, we're gonna come and we'd like to discuss this one item. How do they feel? How do they wanna vote? How do they wanna proceed with it? Because if it's not something that we
It's
can
not our
take,
job.
yeah, we can't
that's,
react to
that's
it.
an addition to his budget.
Right,
And we can't add to his budget.
but do the selectmen have to put this on as an article?
Does,
I think that's policy. I just say no.
You'd say no.
but by
I would-
contract,
I believe that would be policy. He would have to sell it to the board that it's necessary for having a second sergeant, one for the second shift, one for the third shift. In other words, that they, theoretically, whoever's on duty is in control anyways of what goes on.
And inevitably, this is gonna go to town meeting. So if somebody's gonna raise the issue,
It's a possibility.
then
And
it's
not-
gonna go out at that point.
Yeah. And it's not our decision
Right.
to make that commitment.
the thing to do
We're
is,
making a commitment when we submit this budget as well as the door,
the thing to
recommendation.
do is to put it underneath the selectmen's and go there.
Jerry's got a point.
The thing you should do is, do like you said, Barry, is to put it, get a request into the selectmen to see if they do want to do it. If they don't wanna do it, you take the 12,000 out, you take the 40,000 out, and the 67 to the 52 is, drops it down. I don't know, I don't know what the contract calls for. Does the contract call that they,
That's another issue. we don't know.
if a Fowler decides, as he says, if he quits tomorrow, you have no sergeant, does the contract require that you have to have a sergeant? I don't know.
Yeah, this is all stuff the selectmen would
Yeah.
have to deal with.
But
We
you
don't,
see-
we don't have.
Another thing you probably don't realize is that the police department can change policy. And they have to submit when they want to change in their policy, that they have to submit it in writing to the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen in X number of days has to either approve it or disapprove it. And if they don't approve it or disapprove it, it automatically goes into play. That's the way their policies change, can be changed,
If,
and most people don't realize that.
So if the selectmen don't approve the change, what happens?
It's a possibility that he could put them on as his pleasure. I believe. It's a possibility.
Again,
Could be
it's all,
totally wrong,
but this is between the selectmen and the union and all that stuff.
exactly.
So
We don't know what's
we
in that
need to be
contract.
advised by the selectmen on this item.
Yeah.
I think what the chief is doing,
That's when it, to be honest, it's not up to us to increase his budget. It's not up to us to make policy. It's not up to us. It's up to them. They say, well, that is a line item that they support, then.
So are you
it goes in
gonna
his
go to
budget.
the selectmen's meeting next week when I asked to put it on the agenda?
Do you want me to be with you? Yeah.
All right, I'll give that to
I don't want to, but if it's nice cold out there, I don't wanna be out in that cold.
all right, I'll give that to Loretta.
Just so we wanna know, as a finance committee, that, his request of another sergeant, are they in favor of it or they're not? Then it's up to us to fund it. Whatever the increase in differential in there, being a patrolman or a sergeant.
And what do we feel about the car?
The car.
Oh, that's
fine.
taken off.
So take it off this budget and
Yeah,
suggest
it's
that
a
we put
capital.
it.
We don't want it in the budget. We want it as, well, let's take I'll entertain a motion, one way or the other. We'll vote it. Our recommendations of selectmen is that we don't want it. I know what his reasonings are. He don't wanna go before the townspeople and get shut down. It don't look good for him.
well, the way that the thing is written up here, it says car 40,000. I mean, that there sticks out like a sore thumb anyway.
Well, I did that on purpose.
I know you do.
So, but that's how we voted on vehicles in the past as a town meeting, so why would all of a sudden I put it in as an expense?
It's not an expense.
The question that you want to ask is if the sergeant that you have now does retire, you need another sergeant, and if you do, you're gonna have to increase the salary anyway, and you might as well have somebody there, so to speak, to train him.
Yeah. That would be kind of offset by the other sergeant leaving too, right?
Right.
Well, would that be that he's asking for a second? Is he asking for a second, or is he asking to put one on?
See, that to me was a little blurry. Are you asking for a second sergeant to keep a second sergeant, or are you putting him on to train, to
Exactly.
be in
A
training?
replacement.
As I understand it, okay, he's kind of putting a second one on to train him, just in case the other one retires.
But
And he
but
has the right to retire at any time.
Right, but I think that, again, I don't feel comfortable
We
spending
need
the
a
town's money.
clarification, we need a clarification
Yeah.
from the Board of Selectmen on it.
So what you're gonna have to do is go to the selectmen and find out if they wanna do it, because they're the ones that's,
Well, they
Employee.
set policy, that's a policy.
yeah,
It's not that, we don't set policy.
right.
All right, I'll give that to Lorena for next Tuesday. That's all I got.
We won't.
What he's trying to do is protect himself.
Yeah.
Any else items that come before us, or anything that we need to?
I have nothing else to present tonight.
that
And you kind of put those two items in bold text. I
But they do
noticed
stick
that.
out, yeah.
This is the year where everything that isn't transparent is becoming transparent.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
There is quite a jump in the training now, but there over the years, it went from 8,000 to 20,000 in just a couple of years. And, I mean, if he says that it's due to, requirements of the law, I mean, what can you do?
My question would be, okay, where you have the $27,000 difference, okay, after you take the car out, and you have 25,000 with the increase in the salary, and you take off the 11, that would mean that his budget would have dropped by 14. Right? Or round this off to 12 and, see what I'm saying?
If it would drop, how so?
Well, if you take the two figures here, okay,
40,000?
it comes out to 67,000.
Difference.
Yeah, you take off the 40, that brings it down to 27.
Right.
You take the difference between the salaries here, okay, is 25. And in that 25, you have this 11 or 12 up here, so that would,
Most of it.
that would reduce it down.
Yeah, to like.
Because if you
13
take
or so.
this out, it's gonna drop down here, reduce that figure.
Right.
Take that out, this is gonna reduce that figure also.
But it's the top figure that's being reduced, not the bottom one.
What do you mean it's not the bottom?
It's not the bottom one because the bottom figure has the car taken out already.
It says
The
here,
906 and the 901,
no, I'm comparing the 906, okay? The figure underneath there is without the car.
correct?
I took it from the 906, that's what I did. I took the 906. Took the 906, take away the 839, and that gave me 67, take out the car, 40, brings me down to 27. Went over and looked at the salaries, and that brought it down to 25.
But the salaries are non-negotiable. Those are contract step
Will
increases.
you listen to what I'm saying? You have 27, okay? Take the salaries, which is 25, subtract one from the other. It's a $2,000 increase in this, in the whole thing. Now, if you turn around and take out the 11 or 12, whatever you want to call it, for the sergeant, you have to take the 12 out too. So if you take the 12 out, you're dropping, shaking your head no, Barry, okay? Let's stop and think about this thing. You have the,
I've
start,
been working on it for 3 weeks.
start. Okay, let me ask you this. The 906 is a total, right, with the car in there. Is that correct or not correct?
That's right.
Okay? If you take the car out, you dropped it by 40,000. Is that a correct statement?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if you take out the 12, because that's included in the 906,
What's the 12 you're talking
the
about?
12
The
is the sergeant's salary. It's $11,553. I rounded off and call it 12.
Yeah,
That's gonna drop it again, okay?
to 854.
Okay, if you then go over to the 839, okay? What's that gonna drop it down to now?
854 from 839.
Yeah? And you have an increase in your total police up here, the subtotal is 25.
But that's non-negotiable.
I I understand that, I'm not saying that it is negotiable. I'm just saying that if you do that, it's dropping his budget
You know,
from the prior
what you're
year.
saying is he already added that in,
Added what in?
the 12,000.
Yeah, it's in here. If,
He put,
Barry is using Excel spreadsheet to do this, and what he's doing is he's taking line 1, 2, and coming up with 3, then taking these other lines here and coming back and adding it down to the 670,000. That's what I've rounded it off over here, that's it. And I compared that to the 645. Am I right or wrong?
So your point is that basically the budget has gone up
No.
in real terms by $2,000.
Well, yeah, taking.
If you take out the salary
The cut.
increases.
Yeah. So you're talking about 27 to 25 right here.
I
Okay.
can't help you there.
And then if you take out the 12, it's gonna reduce this down. Because the 12 is
To
already
be
in.
13 or so, right? Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Anything else?
I have nothing.
I'm sure that if you bring this up with
Entertain a
the
motion to
selectmen
adjourn.
about the 40,000, they're gonna agree with you, and also the taxpayers will agree with you too.
Yeah.
You're not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just listening. I'm in the cloud now.
You're in the cloud?
It's between
Do you know what that means?
cloud, so to that cloud, I'm right here under it. So, we'll hash it out the next meeting.
Yeah.
And you can get with Jerry, or you can get with the thoughts in your mind, where he's coming from and where you're coming from. I have no problem with it. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I second.
What do, what,
I'll entertain
what
a
are we
motion. Do
going-
we wanna meet with the board Tuesday?
To go over those two issues, I think we should.
okay, do you want all 4 of us there?
I'm gonna be there. If you'd like to come, please be there.
No, that's not the question that I asked.
You want support, is what he's asking.
Well, I'm not gonna fight in
I
one
know
way or
you're
the
not
other.
gonna.
I'm just gonna ask,
That's all.
how do you want us to justify this in the budget?
No, we wanna know if that's what they.
If they intend to do it.
They're doing,
Right.
wanna recommend that that happens.
I think you should be there
Authorize it
because
to
if they decide that it's gonna be a capital planning expenditure for one of them, you're there. So you can respond to whatever questions they have.
Well,
That would be the car.
Right,
I believe that it
Well,
is
that's
a
an act,
capital
anyway.
planning issue.
so
So,
I think you should be there.
to adjourn to Tuesday, make a motion to adjourn to Tuesday.
Second.
Anybody that makes the, I think, any salvation,
Wait, you're gonna adjourn till Tuesday, or you're gonna,
I can't post it, it's too late.
yeah, but we're not gonna meet on that day with selectmen, we're going to the selectmen's meeting.
The only thing we're doing is going to the selectmen's meeting to talk about
Entertain a motion
the
to adjourn.
12, 11,000, whatever you wanna call it, $12,000 or $11,000 for the sergeant and the $40,000 for the car.
Yeah, so we can adjourn,
Yeah.
and we,
All in favor is adjourn.
aye.
Aye.
Not me, I wanna stay here.
How